So, I was thinking about this earlier today, before our call in terms of like, how did I start my journey in, DE and I, right? And I was thinking, it probably started like decades ago when I was like still a kid or whatever, and realized that there was something different about me, you know, um, from other boys or whatever, right? Not necessarily knowing that I was gay or at that point, 7 or 8 or whatever age I was or whatever, but noticing that I was different and noticing that not everybody necessarily liked the fact that I was different, yeah, which sort of made me have to start learning how to like mask and cover, um,
Mhm.
so that I could feel safe or whatever. Yeah. And so yeah, so I think I've been doing it, or I had been doing it for, a very long time, and I learned how to do that at a very early, an early age, not necessarily knowing what I was doing. And I mean, now looking back on it, I completely I see it all, and I, fully understand it or whatever. And 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 I think it's a terrible thing that we have to do that people had to do that people still feel that they have to do that. Um, it's not a great way to live your life. Yeah, it's not, and it's certainly is something that kind of holds you back from really just leading a full life and realizing your full potential and um having fulfilling relationships, etc. I mean, it's a big impediment to that. And so yeah, so th- it kind of started then, but it actually didn't. My role within the firm now, and what I stepped into, really was as kind of as a result of Glow, and more like a result of the war happening. Yeah, so I was living in Ukraine. You know, wasn't really super out. I mean, we had all of our close friends knew about us, but not everybody at work did, and I never was really like out there broadcasting it because it's still like a very conservative, Orthodox Christian society or whatever. I mean, attitudes are changing, but it's not the kind of thing you go necessarily go out and advertise or whatever, right? So I was never really open about it, particularly at work. And then when the war started and we were stuck in Ukraine for a while, we I became familiar with an organization called Safebo that was looking to help sort of LGBTQ plus Ukrainians leave Ukraine, and particularly members of the trans community who still hadn't fully transitioned and managed to change their passport from like male to female, right? And so even though they were, for the most part, and they are women, legally they still had an M, in their passport, and because of the prohibition on men aged 18 to 60, from being able to leave, they weren't able to leave. So they would like show up, at the border sometimes, looking like a woman, and then they'd see their passport, and they'd subject them to, all kinds of nasty checks and whatever, and just, sometimes they'd even drag some just straight to the army recruitment office and say, you're going, to the front or whatever, right? And so, there's stories of like, trans women, jumping into rivers and swimming across rivers into the, Poland or wherever, like whatever, running through the woods, whatever they could do to get out or whatever, So we started helping them out, trying to find some legal ways, to help trans women leave. Safe Boat, this organization, it really brought to light to me like the problems that you know, gay people from the whole spectrum, LGBTQ plus people, the whole spectrum were facing, as a result of the war. People with HIV who weren't having enough access to medication that they needed, for continuing HIV treatment. Um, trans men and women who needed like hormones and weren't able to necessarily get access to that. Um, all kinds of issues, right? And it just, this kind of brought to the forefront for me, how much like we're still just, discriminated against in so many ways, and how LGBTQ people just don't necessarily have, the same privileges as everybody else does. And I mean, when I say privilege, I mean more rights, like basic rights that, people have or whatever. Yeah. So it's maybe not necessarily a privilege, but you know, so anyway, so that when we finally came to Poland, uh, and I faced another problem where if because Poland, is a very kind of strict Catholic country, and they don't recognize same-sex marriages here. Now, when the war started, Europe passed a Europe-wide directive that grants temporary protected status to Ukrainian refugees, like Ukrainians who left right into Europe so that they can stay in Europe. And so that's granted to Ukrainian citizens, and it also applies to foreign spouses of Ukrainian citizens. But in Poland, what they did was, yes, it applies to foreign opposite sex spouses of Ukrainian citizens. So had we gone to Spain, for example, I would have had the same protected status, as my husband does. But here in Poland, I don't, and I had to go and acquire my own basis to legally reside, here in Poland or whatever. Yeah, which has proved to be, time consuming and sort of very bureaucratic and etc. Right. Whereas, everybody else, every other foreign spouse, was able to do it. Opposite sex spouse. So yes, I started realizing that like, Jesus Christ, I've been blind to this for so long or whatever, you know what I mean? And so an opportunity came up to head our LGBTQ plus employee resources group within Dentons in Europe, which is called GLOW. Yeah, which stands for gay, lesbian, or whatever. And I said, well, hey, I just got here. My practice is basically in the toilet because of the war, so I have some free time in my hands. So maybe I can step in and start helping out with, with Glow, and which is what I did, and a lot of that was, it was right before Pride, when that happened. And so, for example, one of the first things that I did was our Australia region of our firm. The head of Glow in Australia asked me if I would speak about what I had just gone through, in Ukraine, and all these things that I'd witnessed, that I was just, telling you about, basically. Um, and so, it was kind of like a featured speaker on that. And then, we had another webinar that we did for clients, and within the firm, about the importance of just DEI, and, for clients, and, with the clients for the clients with whom we work, and kind of like the corporate aspect of, DEI, and, just like one thing to another that we started doing, different initiatives and awareness pieces, and, getting involved in like different organizations and all these things. And it just, kind of like just kept growing and growing and growing. And I kept getting sucked in more into, um, DEI more broadly within our firm. And, and it all also came at a time where, so I had this, being displaced from Ukraine. And then a couple of months later, after arriving in Poland, I found out that I had colon cancer, and I was just like, oh, great, another thing to deal with. And, and I had surgery and chemotherapy over 6 months. And so it was just this really like difficult time for me, where where this involvement really just gave me a purpose that I believed in, and helped me find something within myself that I was able to get really passionate about, and motivated by. I'm gonna start crying. And yeah, it was, I don't know, I found uh some meaning to all of this, and I saw how how not just with Glow, with what we've been doing, within the LGBTQ plus community, but just in general, like what we as a firm do in our DEI efforts, in our initiatives, to help promote, people who have been, over years, disadvantaged and who still, face some disadvantages in the workplace, and how to, make more people aware of that and help all of our colleagues understand, what some of the issues are and some of the hurdles that people face, to help kind of change the way we think and interact with each other. And, you know, to understand that it's not about favoring somebody over another or trying to give anybody an unfair advantage, but it's really just trying to let everybody have an equal voice and equal opportunity to make sure that they're heard, you know. Yeah, so I don't know, it's something that it just struck a chord for me at the right time. And I think uh where we are as a firm, like in our DEI journey, maybe the message that, I was sort of putting out there and the things that I was saying were like resonating um widely enough that, I sort of started to become this poster boy within the firm, for what we're doing. And yeah, and so it's just taken off. So I mean, I think, now, I mean, I still am heading our Glow team. We just had a call last week, our first call of 2024, to be setting our priorities, for this year. We had some really good participation. There's a lot that we want to do. I have a big strategy growth plan for, this year, in terms of not just awareness events, lots of things that are internally facing, lots of things that are externally facing. I think this year we want to focus more on, what we can be doing within the communities, in which we live and work. Um, so yeah, there's a lot. And I know I've been lucky in the sense that I've gotten a lot of recognition out of it, but I'm also looking now to, like, I'm encouraging others to be, as involved as they want to be, because, they deserve to be recognized too. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not the Adam Mycyk show, it's everybody's show. You know what I mean? And, I mean, so first of all, I have to, like, I have to give credit to our team. So we have this really wonderful ID&E team within Europe, but within the firm. So we have, like, there's a huge kind of structure, ID&E structure within our firm that starts at the global level. Yeah. So, we're a global firm, but we're broken out into 7 or 8 different regions. Each region kind of replicates their own ID&E structure based on the sort of global structure. And just to give you a sense of how important this is within our firm, our global head of D&I is a board member of the global board. So she's, a very important voice, on the board. This is something that the firm speaks, in a very much in a unified voice and very loudly when we talk about DE&I. So it's, we say that it's in our DNA, and it most definitely is. And I think, and it's evident when you see people like me and others in the different regions who are involved, that, we all have the passion and belief in, promoting DE&I within our firm and making sure that we have a very inclusive and safe culture for people. But so that being said, so I have this great team or whatever. Yeah. And they kind of put me up for these nominations or whatever that I'm not even aware about necessarily half the time. And they write some great submission, to tell my story and the things that we've been doing. And so, it's just kind of to their credit as well. That I've been recognized by Stonewall, and I just have been shortlisted for another award in Europe. Yeah. For it's a company, a group called Chambers and Partners, and what they do is it's the premier, like, sort of ranking agency for law firms globally. And so they're in Europe. I've been nominated or shortlisted for an outstanding achievement award for DE&I, yeah, as an individual. Yeah. that's the only, they don't give individual awards for like other things, but this DNI category is an individual award. So like they give awards for firms, like so you'll get, best law firm in Poland or, Czech Republic or the US or whatever. Yeah. So then it's the firm, but then for individuals, this one. Yeah. So this one's kind of significant too. And again, I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed that we win. But again, it's really thanks to the team and supporting me and helping me do all this stuff that I'm able to make this impact or whatever, right? And this is the thing, so I'm telling the people that I that I work with in the team and people that I'm trying to encourage to get involved more in all of these different initiatives is that you can also, it's this recognition. I'm not doing it for the recognition. It's great that I get it or whatever, but um it's more of a testament to all of us or whatever, and you too can be getting this recognition. Yeah. So we're not going to put my name up every single year for these awards or whatever. Yeah, get involved.